these are the rules that we have agreed to abide by. These are our meeting tips. This is from the chairs.ietf.org, the site that is prepared and gives us template slides if you wish to use them for each meeting. And then finally, this is our agenda. And we're going to get right to it because it's pretty compact today. Rich will be taking notes. If anybody wants to help, please go to the linked notes page and follow the links and contribute.
We'll start with introductions briefly then. For those who don't know, I'm Jay Daly. I'm the IETF Executive Director.
And I'm Vigdis Brander, IETF Counsel. Vigdis Brander, IETF Counsel.
So we have 10 minutes to talk about antitrust, but we also, as we have Vigdis here, we can make this, if you have any questions for Vigdis, please ask them. So don't worry about deviating from the antitrust bit. Is there a clicker or is it? Oh, lovely. Thank you. Thanks. So I just wanted to make sure that we're all comfortable about antitrust claims that have been made. So there have been multiple incorrect claims about antitrust in the IETF made. There have been claims that antitrust law, US antitrust law, requires the IETF to do some things in certain ways. Claims that the IETF must record every individual position and objection, as in that we have to use GitHub, for example. Claims about how consensus must be judged. Claims about how due process must operate. And claims about how transparently the organization must act. And then from that, a further claim has been made that the IETF is not doing these claimed things. And then the conclusion from that that's been claimed, and I'm just going to use the word claim lots, is that the IETF is operating illegally. All right. So the response is this is the IETF LLC response. This is what we put in the statement about it, that these criteria, I'll leave it for you to read it, but the bit at the bottom is reviewing these claims, we find them without merit. Okay. And the important point to take from above is that there are certain criteria that are vital to an SDO. We do completely embody those criteria. And the claims about us not adhering to those criteria are the bits that we're rejecting, right? And we have RFC 9680 antitrust guidelines should you need anything further. So done that quickly. This is a chance to ask any questions you have, either of me or of Vigdis. Of course, Vigdis is not giving you legal advice, but happy to answer any questions you have now. Okay.
All right, there's nobody.
Okay, so somebody shows up in my working group and goes off the handle and is like, oh, you're breaking antitrust. We're covered individuals, right? So we then come to you?
Yes, though if I'm wrong, Roman will tell me there's a problem here. So the IESG would want any legal claims to be handled by the IETF LLC, as that's our thing, okay? We provide insurance for all working group chairs when you're acting in your official capacity. We also provide it for all leadership acting their individual capacity. So you are covered by those things. Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, no, and just if there are allegations of antitrust misconduct, then to really refer back to the RFC for the appropriate escalation process for that.
So thank you for putting those policies in place many years ago.
Is that a hypothetical example?
Hi, this is Roman Geneto. I did not get in the queue. Since I got invoked, I'm trying better. All right, better. Yeah, I think the key takeaway is that the standards process does not adjudicate legal claims. If legal claims are made, that's not the standards process. You go to legal@ietf.org, and the LLC is who handles that. It's not working group chairs, and it's also not the ISG.
Great. Any more questions about this, or any more general legal questions or concerns anybody would like to discuss? Excellent. We should feed you again more regularly.
So just a reminder to everybody in the room, you do need to get on Meet Echo. It's one of the things we use it for is the number of lunches. So it's very important. And since there's only 37 people online, I'm guessing you aren't all 38 now. All right, so last call for questions for,
Yeah, I'm gonna not go up to there. So if someone is continually disrupting the meeting, the mailing list by bringing up legal claims, would, similar to the IETF list, would that be something that they would be cause for moderation?
I think Roman has to handle this one.
Yes, in a nutshell, as working group chairs, you have the ability to manage the community discussion that's happening in your working group. You have the local experience and venue experience about what is kind of disruptive in managing the flow. If you have repeated assertions of legal things that are non-compliant to the to the IETF process, the ISG put out a statement that would assert that that is disruptive, and you, as the working group chair or a non-working group list administrator, have all the flexibility to manage that conversation.
all right, last call. And you're here for a day or two
Yep, I'm here through Friday.
through Friday. So if you have any additional questions, you can flag her down.
Come say hi.
Come say hi. Thank you. So next on the agenda is the
Me
Notewell
again?
update. Let me switch slides.
Yep, I think it's not the one slide.
And then she has to be control too.
So many buttons.
Introduce yourself.
No, hold on, she's not, there you go, okay. Oh, because, so you already know Jay Daly. So I'm Deb Cooley. I am, oh, I'm not wearing my badge, sorry. I'm one of the SEC ADs, and one of the people that worked on the guidance for the Notewell.
So we're going to split this thing about the Notewell into two separate bits. I'll do one bit and then Deb will do the other bit. I'm just going to do the background bit and then Deb will do the guidelines and feedback and side of things. So yeah, look, I can't get any closer to this microphone. I'm really close to it already. Okay, trying again. It does. Lovely. Fantastic. I should resist the urge to sing a song. So I went back and asked some people what they thought the purpose of the Notewell was, who were around at the time. This is what Scott Bradner wrote, recollecting the origins of it as, that it was written by him and the lawyer and then tweaked and signed off by the IESG. And notably that it would be sent to all mailing lists and also shown at the beginning of all sessions. He doesn't remember when that was though. Scott recalls the purpose as reminding people about the IPR rules. And when we look at the older versions, that's really what it concentrated on. What's a contribution? And then Brian recalls this about being at risk of antitrust and lots of newcomers to the IETF and misbehavior. And so this was a legal protection. So that's the best I've got. If anybody has anything more formal, please let me know. If anybody has anything, I think pre-2003, then let me know as well. So the Notewell is used in a number of places. Just wanted to make sure we all understand this because it's more than just in these sessions. It's of course used in the template slide decks. It's used in the website where we put it so that people understand about participation there. When you subscribe to a mailing list, it's in the subscription message. Now that's relatively new because we only able to do that once we migrated to Mailman 3, which was relatively new. It's in a pin notice in Zulip and it's on a display at the registration desk. It's also referenced in 3 key places. The post-confirm challenge message. So when somebody first emails any IETF mailing list, this thing called post-confirm intervenes, asks them to confirm they are who they say they are before, and then adds them to the global whitelist and that global allow list. And so that references and says by participating you will be following the policies as set out on this page. Go and read it. And then the meeting registration, you tick something, I accept to follow policies, and then ID submission, there's a notice at the top that says by submitting you are doing these things. Okay. And we have a new QR code that helps you reference that as well. So the change history, actually, sorry, the earliest version we have is from 2001. The main thing about this slide is to show that it's really largely been about IETF contribution and IPR stuff. A bit was added about privacy, and then in 2018, the reminder of behaviour was added. The IETF has that should say the IESG has consulted occasionally, but normally just release the new version over the, the 20 plus years of this. So this year we had questions at one of these forums at IETF 120 Vancouver. I took an action to conduct a review based on all your questions. Did a review, provided it to the IESG that covered the purpose, history, various things, and proposed some text. Council signed that off. IESG then amended the text iteratively, decided on when it's shown, and added the guidance, and Deb will go through that. So just briefly, the concerns that were driving the 2025 review, the ones that you mentioned to me, were usage, widespread concern that it's overused, leading to it becoming a distraction or losing its potency. The purpose, it's intended to be a reminder, and it was becoming the thing itself instead of the reminder. The emphasis, many of you felt that the current sentiment meant the emphasis should be on behaviour, not on the IPR rules. And the style, that it was two lists, in that way. And also concerns were raised with the note really well, which were more difficult concerns. One, that it was not set out as a reminder, so it could be interpreted as policy and therefore conflict with other policy, because it didn't use the same text as the policies did, and repetition, it was repetitive. So there were some goals for rewriting the text. Top of it was just to tell people this is what it's about, by participating, you are doing this. And then start with the desired principle, change the emphasis to be about behaviour, use direct quotes, don't try to rewrite them, so we're not creating new policy, use simpler language, merge the two lists into one with references, and replace the BCP references with individual RFC references to make them easier to find. So that were the goals that went into the text then. This is the new text. You've seen it before, just in case, make sure it's in the slide deck. And then we moved on to the IESG guidance.
Oh, I get the clicker too. Look at that, the power. Okay, so here's the guidance that we have constructed. It's teeny tiny bit different than the last guidance, but it's mostly pretty similar, right? So show this note well at the start of every session, preserve the text as is, don't change it. Do not add the note really well slide or create any other slides about policies. Which one do I push? This one? Woohoo, look at that. So this do and don't list is the same as the previous note well. So I'll let you read it. I'm not going to read it. But it is, I don't think we tweaked this at all. It's exactly the same. So here's what we did add. So you asked for, what should we say? And so we constructed an example of what you might say. And it's this, it's just basically bits and pieces of what's in the note well already. But it's pretty short, probably lasts about 30 seconds to a minute. So you put the note well up, you read something along these lines, and then off you go. So feedback, since we've put this up, announced the new note well, we've gotten feedback back, right? Stating affiliations, why people ask to state their name each time at the mic and not name an affiliation. Make it shorter, it's hard to read. Alternatives to approaches would be shortening it, removing all the points except for the one about conduct, keeping all points and removing the document references that clutter it, keep all the points and shorten the text even further. And the third one was IPR statements seem to be inconsistent with 8179. So there was some private emails about whether the IPR guidance was the same. So these things we will take on advisement and see what we can do. So one of the things we have done is we have printed it on one of these big placard things and put it at registration. So if it's hard to read, Go to registration. You've agreed to it when you've registered for the IETF, and so that's a place that you can see it. The QR code will let you download or point you to the RFC so that they're all in one place. So those are things that we've done since Vancouver to make it easier to use it. Do we have questions? That's the last one, right? Yeah, that's the last slide. So do you have questions, comments? Come to the mic. We'll take positive comments too, you know.
Yeah, Rohan was in the mic. Oh, there he is.
Rowan's in the mic queue. Okay. Hello, Rowan.
Hey, Rowan May. I liked what Paul Hoffman posted about this on the Working Group Chairs mailing list. But basically, I think that keeping the text that you guys have now in the QR code for the three sort of main entry points is perfect. Great. Like, it looks better. For the working groups, I think it's still like this thing that people just gloss over. And the people who probably need the most help understanding what they agreed to are the ones that, you know, are not very, you know, maybe don't read quickly in English, or, you know, wouldn't be able to follow even a 1 minute pause. And 1 minute when you're sitting up there feels like forever.
Forever. Yeah, I agree.
So specifically what Paul said is, you know, you already agreed to these things, and it's just, you know, you agreed to the policy on this, the policy on this, the policy on this, and the policy on this. And so we don't try to explain what the policies are, even in that slide. You know, maybe that doesn't meet the needs of legal or of the organization, but that felt like that was maybe more of the spirit of what the slide was for in terms of showing it at the working groups.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Haas.
Jeff Haas. So I was one of the people that asked for the what we should say thing. Thank you for adding that. I think what we'll find on reviewing of the recordings of, you know, the IETF, at least the places I've seen, people are still doing their own little personal explainer videos for these sorts of things and are not terribly consistent. So look around the room, challenge yourself to actually stick to what's actually said here, and just don't make stuff up.
So it is an example, right? But as long as you stick to the Notewell script, I think we're okay with it, right? You just can't make stuff up.
Nobody's making stuff up, but the emphasis that people are putting on the individual points, you know, especially like how we rewarded and got rid of the note really well, sets, I think, a specific tone, and I think we want to avoid the biasing tones for that. The second piece, in terms of the affiliations, we have that as part of registration. That's a happy thing. In terms of at the microphone, my suggestion is, unless we're willing to actually step away from, you know, the saying that we're here as individuals, don't ask people to state their affiliations, because otherwise you're really saying your affiliation with your your affiliation is more important than actually know that you're as an individual.
All right. Thank you.
Hi, Bob Hinton. Yeah, I'm also in agreement to what Paul Hoffman suggested. The current slide is just way too many words. It's like this. I think I said this on the list. It's just like, you know, when you get some new piece of software you install and you click, you read this long you don't read this long complicated thing. You just accept so you can get to the app. We should just make this really simple. And the main thing, at least I care about, is I want it's not the IPR stuff. It's just that we should behave and treat people well. And that's worth putting on the slide. But I think the rest, or having to read something like you put up here, I think is not, no one is going to pay any attention.
Thank you.
Pete.
Hi, Pete Resnick. My big, I have the same concern of it's too long, but we tend to talk about, and even as you all were talking, people agreeing to the note well. That's not what they're doing.
Right.
They're agreeing to the things that are referenced by the note well.
Right.
And In fact, there's no reason to leave this up for 30 seconds because they need to have agreed to this ahead of time. The note well needs to simply say, there's a bunch of stuff in our policies that you better know about. Some of them are about IPR, and that might make lawyers who who work for the company you work for unhappy. Some of them are about how you behave, and you better go look them up if you don't know about them. And that's really all the note well should say. And you can give references if you want, but the content, I think, is still too long.
Okay.
Sorry, so Pete, just one thing about that. It starts off by saying by participating, you are agreeing, okay? And that's vital because we don't want to have a gap whereby somebody doesn't, acknowledge the things on the way. And so say something like you have agreed. We want to make it clear that every time you participate, you agree to follow those things. Otherwise, don't participate.
Here's my question, Jay. Are people seeing the note well when they register for the meeting?
They are seeing a box at the bottom that says, which they have to check for the meeting, that says, I agree to follow IETF policies, of which the note well is a reminder.
To me, they now know that by registering for this meeting and participating in it, they've got stuff that they have to go look up.
No, that's true. But the thing is that we use the note well in other cases as well, where you don't have that affirmative checkbox position beforehand, and to avoid having two different sets of text, that's why we keep it that way legally.
So now let's back up a second. The thing in the registration is not the text of the note well, is what you're saying.
No, it's not. No, it's
so we already have two versions.
Well,
what you do in the registration.
It's a one-line legal system, but
yeah. I guess what I'm saying is, if we make them aware during the registration process for the meeting they are about to participate in, remotely or in person, if we make them aware of the things that they have to take care of, we can make a very simple during the meeting. Remember, you agreed to this. You were meant to go look this up when you registered, and we're reminding you of that, but we don't need to go on about it.
All right. So just flash it up and say those things. I mean, that's just very simple, right?
Yeah. And I think by having it this long, it starts to look like
this long.
Yeah.
Okay.
It starts to look like you're having to read this to agree to it. You've already done the agreement.
You've already agreed to it, yes.
Yeah. And so I think, what shows up in the room could be much shorter.
So the checky box on registration's been there for a long time, right? Yeah. It's not new.
Right.
Bron Gondwana, repeating probably what lots of other people have said here. Yes, I'll just lift it up. I think the first sentence there is basically the entirety of what we need. By say this session is an IETF session, is covered under the IETF policies and processes which you have already agreed to. If you are not willing to follow them, leave now. The end. That's all the slide needs to say. And you say, reminder, this is an IETF session. It's covered under IETF policies. If you don't agree to them, you're not allowed to participate. Let's go.
Thank you. I will say that sometimes people need reminding to be nice.
So as the queue gets longer, if you're repeating something, perhaps we're already past the agenda time, so.
Now, this is Barry Leba. I'll have to disagree with my distinguished and excellent colleagues before. I think it is useful to have this in the slide deck because people will look at the slide decks offline, whatever. As Deb said, when we present this in the meeting, we only need to say a few words to point out what this is for, but having it in the slide deck, I think, is useful in the longer version. An organization I participated in had 6 slides at the beginning of every session that did this kind of stuff. So I don't have much sympathy for the "this is too long" argument.
Thank you very much. Rowan's back in the queue?
Super short. I think that one of the big problems is the by participating. You are participating in an IETF meeting. That's unclear to a lot of non-native speakers. You are participating right now. Even if you're just sitting in the chair, you are participating. I think that's getting lost.
So that's perhaps a template change, not necessarily a note well change,
Yeah.
because what you display in the meeting is you're already here, whereas this on the website should be like this or that. Sorry.
Lou Berger. It seems to me that, what?
Mike.
I have
Yeah.
to eat the mic. Sorry
Well,
about
you
that.
can pick it up.
It seems to me that when you're registering, you have a lot more time available to review things than during the session. And if the short one-liner is good enough during the time that you have a lot of time available, it should be more than good enough for us to use in the session.
Thank you.
So
Are we done?
you want very quick.
Just minor question. When Alexander Pelfo, when we have an interim meeting, like it's a meet echo, is there like a registration? I don't recall if I'm clicking something or just clicking on
For
connect.
interim meetings, because you don't subscribe, you don't like register for an interim meeting, but it is still participation. And so the slide will still be up at the beginning of the session, the chair slides, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
when we're organizing, this is an important part. So people, they are not
Right.
actually saying, I agree to that
Not,
beforehand. for
not when
interim
they,
meetings.
not when they join the interim session.
It's
But
important.
if they know about the interim session, they're subscribed to a mailing list, or they wouldn't know about it. Yeah. Well, it's
I
not
have,
quite
they
true
have a
either,
data,
but it's
data
okay.
tracker
Close enough.
link or something, but they could, someone
Yeah.
in theory could. do
Interim
that.
meetings, thank you very much. That's a good catch.
I think often chairs they have chair slides sometimes. For
They do,
interim
they'll
meetings.
have chair slides, but there won't be a lot of, I mean, unless they look at the chair slides in advance,
Yeah.
or unless they look at it ahead of time.
Right. All right. So next is, well, thank you all. And Robert, you and Eric on adoption emails and other.
So, Eric Vink, a member of the ISG in Teddy, and also the ISG 2 liaison with a couple of my colleagues. And I guess everyone knows Robert. I want to start by presenting my own apologies in my name as the 2 liaison to the ISG. I failed. I think we all agree. I failed to warn the working group chair community that something is coming having an impact. First point. And I also failed to explain why this was a change. And this change is mainly, at least from the ISG point of view, to be transparent, to mark all the call for adoption and so on into the document history. Else, as an AD, I spend a lot of my time asking my chairs, and a couple of them in the room will acknowledge this. I say, yeah. Eric, you are boring because you want to put me as a comment into the comment history. Start of the call for adoption and a link to the mail archive. End of the call for adoption and a link to the mail archive. Why is it important? Because when you submit a document for publication to the ISG, I need to check, and all my colleagues, AD, need to check whether all those steps has been done correctly. We don't only check for the technical content, but we also check for the processes. So that's the explanation that was missing and is still missing. I will come back on the next step. Something I want to say is to big thank you to Robert and his team, because as soon as it has been identified as a problem, and the community was pretty quick to say, hey, we need to be able to change the time, we need to change the email content, and I guess you did it in a...
The opportunity to preview the message and edit the message is still in review. There is a development branch deployed. The link is on the working group chairs list. Feedback on what is present at the moment is 2 big nits that people would like addressed before we roll it into production, and that's having to edit a thing in 3 different places, which we can address, but it will be adding some JavaScript to the form that will fill those things in. And there is a small wart for the call for adoption process that if you start and then back off, it has permuted the working group state in a way that is surprising, leaving it in candidate for adoption, even though you started and backed off. So we'll address those things in the next, hopefully, week and a half. Make another call for working group chair community-wide review of that development deployment, and then roll that part into production. I'm going to hand the mic back to you, and then I'm going to go to that mic and talk from the floor.
Oh, can you keep the mic here? I prefer. So something I forgot to say about the transparency is that the default template for those emails include the IPR statement, right? If anybody is aware of an IPR, please, because a lot of the chair forget to ask this. It's not mandatory, but it helps if it asks. Now, the plan is to make the wiki for the working group chair an instruction, update it, and then most probably will be the IG, or at least I will do it for my own working group chair, or mine between quote, force them to use this tool, because that's very important to keep a track and audit trail. So Robert, you are in the queue.
Yeah, Robert Sparks with my working group chair hat on. Two points. One, especially with what you've said verbally at the mic, it sounds like we're making issuing a working group call for adoption a mandatory step in the working group process.
The intent is clearly not to change any process in the standard, right? Publication. Clearly, if I misspoke, fair enough. So nothing will be changed.
All of the cases where a group would just de facto have a document become a working group document, either by charter assignment or by the chair making a judgment call that it's just dead obvious that this working group is going to be working on this document. They've started already, right? These kinds of things are still, people can follow through, use their judgment that working groups can work in the different ways that the working groups have worked.
I never see in my, again, between quote, working group, this happening, which explain why I misspoke.
I've lived it many times.
Okay, I was unaware. But the intent is really not to change the process. Okay, is to have the process and the job of the working group chair and the job of the AD.
All right, my second point. There were several calls on the working group chair list for the IETF to talk to, for the ISG to talk to the working group chairs about the content of the message. And to me, it appeared that they have gotten silence until, well, basically now. This is now where we're getting feedback on the content of the message. Why did that take so long?
I guess we were simply busy. And nothing, there is no bad intention or we want to be secret. Our presence here is really that we want to work together. Okay.
This is Pete Resnick. I'm going to say this stronger than Robert said it. First of all, you said we need this in the tracker. No, you don't. Because you are not required to do working group adoption. I, as a working group chair, can say, Barry, you're the document editor, start a new document. Once he sends it in, I can mark it as active working group document, full stop. No adoption is needed. So don't tell me it needs to be in the tracker, and that's the reason.
Okay, I was not clear to your questions. As an AD, I'd never seen the case, right? So I misspoke.
Okay. Second thing, it is not appropriate for the IASG to change working group chair methods without checking with them first. You do not instruct the tools team to make a change to the tools that do not affect the ISG. These are working group chair tools. You're changing that is imposing a process through the tools team. That's not appropriate. You should have come and said, we're talking to the tools team on the working group chairs list. We're talking to the tools team about setting up some tools for adoption because lots of people are using it. What would you like in it? Not doing these things by the IASG making that decision. That's not right.
And you are right telling that it's not the tools team mistake or whatever. This is the IG. That's what I said at the beginning. Apologies.
Right.
It's done is done, right?
What I agree, but let's be clear. What you apologized for was not telling us after the fact and not being clear on why after the fact. And what I'm telling you is the mistake was before the fact.
Okay, I didn't apologize for this. Correct.
Okay.
So no apologies then.
No, and I appreciate the apology, no doubt, but it's not necessary. I'm saying, let's be clear, because the IASG seems to be of late getting in mind that they are making decisions without consulting the community. And that's of concern. And I would really like to see that stop. Before the IASG makes process decisions, they need to consult the community that is involved. They can comment on what their interpretation of a current process is, but changing the process is not something the ISG should be doing.
And I agree with you, but
Okay.
human mistake, right?
Good.
Yeah.
We learn.
Hi, Stephen Farrell. I kind of agree with what Pete said, but I'll try and say it nicer. It's not normally my style.
You nicer? Wow.
Some people are more or less tolerant of informality, and some people like much more formality and checkboxes and milestones and dates. We don't need all those things. We should be tolerant of those who are more tolerant of lack of formality.
Yes, maybe, but honestly, Steve, as an AD, when you have publication request document, it helps a lot if you get those at least comments into the data tracker.
I'm entirely fine that things help. Using words like force for those things doesn't seem correct.
Correct.
Yeah. Bob Hinden, yeah, I'll also try to say this in a nice way, because I was maybe the first one who ran into this. What happened was we had done an adoption or a working group, let's call, I don't remember which one. And then later I realized I forgot to change the state. And so I went and changed the state, and all of a sudden there was a new adoption call. I had no idea that this was going to happen. I complained to Robert, and Robert basically said, the ISG told him to do it. So the high level thing here is, high level thing is when you change, the tools get changed, you need to talk to the people who use the tool and not just, have it happen. We shouldn't be surprised. So I appreciate you realize a mistake was made, but there is sort of, I think, a general principle of don't change the tooling without talking to the people who actually are the users of the tool.
So Bob, historically, I'm also a safeguard on identifying that and making sure that there is a step where it's review. It's not a formal part of my role, but it's something that think I've been good at in the past, and I missed on this one, and I'm sorry for that.
Right, but it was, I'm not blaming you at all. I think the problem was, as Pete pointed out, was really from the ISG.
Stefan Nikowski, first thing, thank you. I think it's going really in the right direction of saving time of many people in writing these emails and so on and tracking them. One thing is, I think you mentioned that you are doing the IPR at the same time as the working group adoption. The fact is, if we want to go one step further, we need to add also this individual tracking of the IPR replies to also save time to people. Because, yeah, we need to find a way to probably even count automatically how many replies we got for IPRs and so on.
This could be a tools addition, I guess.
Yeah, but it's going really in the right direction, in my opinion.
we rely, I mean, as an AD, I typically rely on the Shepherd.
So Rob Wilton, I see you getting roasted by the working group chairs up on the stage. And I just want to point out is, as I understand it, you're trying to make some tool changes to make our lives a little bit easier. And I'm hoping that we realize in this room and that maybe the execution hasn't been perfect, but you're not trying to make our lives harder here. You're trying to make it a bit easier.
Indeed, and thank you.
Adrian Farrell. I want to thank Robert and the tools team, especially for the sandboxing of the new way this will look. And I want to convey my depression that it's not been possible to back out the change that many working group chairs are finding painful at the moment, pending Robert's new version. And the response I got from Robert about backing out was, I can't do it because the ISG have told me to put this in. Well, so sorry, Eric, you're up here. You are the ISG, and I'm throwing things at you. For goodness sake, stop making my life harder.
And the intent was obviously, as you can guess, not to make your life harder, right?
So back it out.
All right. So I think with that, Bron, I had locked the queue, so unless you have something really new, 10 seconds. Okay, no. All right, Jean, thank you, both of you. And let's see. Yeah, oops, let me hit the yes button. There you go.
Wow, that's right.
That's right.
Howdy, I'm Jean Mahoney. I'm the Director of RPC Communications and Strategy, and I'm here to give you a quick update on some of our projects. I'll go even more quickly. So in Madrid, we talked about launching the intake form. This is a quick questionnaire that we send to authors when their document enters the queue to help us go more quickly with our copy edits. So what to say, this is working really well. Authors respond on average within 3 days. Half of them are responding within 1 day. But only 20 are responding between 1 and 2 weeks. We're getting really good feedback. So we're going to continue with these questions. And also, as authors read the questions, they see they get to participate in some of our pilot programs, like Cram Down RFC support. So we started accepting Cram Down RFC as input format September 1st. Now this is somewhat limited. So in our intake form, we say, hey, do you want to participate? And we're accepting 5 documents a month. And the one of the first ones accepted is now in Auth 48. All right. So in addition, as you know, we are updating our internal tools, our queue management system. We're putting into place version control. Internally, we're going to be using GitHub. Authors have been asking for an optional use of GitHub for Auth 48. So we are piloting this starting this month. A question in the intake form. If an author would like to have Auth 48 done in GitHub, we will create one big pull request with all our edits and in a new repo, not the original documents repo, but one that we create. But authors will be able to use GitHub tools for review. So suggestions, comments. However, the approval process will still be email-based. So once all the changes have been accepted, the authors will still say via email, I approve the changes to the document. All right, just a reminder of some of the big tools changes that are being made. We are updating our management system for our queue, building editing software that authors will also be able to use. And we are revamping the RFC editor website and also working to support Cramdown RFC as a submission format. So I had a question on the chair's list. Why is my document taking so long? So data here showing document submissions and publications. And we had quite a few documents enter the queue in the first quarter this year. I have another slide for that, but do want to point out that we have actually published more documents this year than all of 2024. So here is showing the 3,200 pages that entered our queue in the first quarter, and that's a total of 74 documents. And the RFC Production Center has 12 employees. I'm one of them, and I don't edit. So just as a setting expectations, we are working through these documents here, but in addition to this really big load earlier in the year, it hasn't really calmed down. So we're seeing a lot of documents come in. All right. So this week we're at the desk today and tomorrow. We have a beta version of our new website up. You can access this URL with a data tracker login. Please play with it. Give us feedback. You can also interact with it at the desk. So, all right. Thank you. Any questions?
Jeff, briefly, so the GitHub interaction, are you going to be using issues or just reviews?
Yes, we'll put questions to the authors and issues.
Thank you.
Sean Turner, thanks. I think I've already volunteered to do one of these for one of the longer documents. This is really going to be helpful because I know that there are repos that kind of like continue on, and it would be good to get the auth 48 changes back into the, we know the RFC is the one that's supposed to be quote unquote immutable, but I've had instances where people have gone to the old repo and start to make changes, and it's good to make sure that the thing that's actually published as an RFC matches the thing that's still lingering around in some working group repo. So thanks.
Right, thank you.
Hi, Aaron Parecki. I'm very much looking forward to the GitHub process for the auth 48. My question is are the comments that come through that and are responded to as all part of the discussions or whatever it is, are they going to be archived somewhere that is not GitHub so that they're part of a more resilient history?
So we will also archive the repo. So after everything's published, and the email responses for this we approve the document is also captured in the auth 48 archive mailing list.
So, okay, so all the comments that will be made on GitHub will get archived to the list then?
Hadn't thought about also sending them to the list.
My main concern here is just to make sure that there's a archive of the discussion on a IETF or RFC editor property that is not on GitHub.
Okay. Point taken. Thank you.
Jonathan Lennox, do you anticipate doing the cram down in the GitHub for the same drafts?
You can, yes.
So the two independent choices, and it's possible to do both?
Yes.
Okay.
Or you could even do the XML in GitHub. Although we see that Cramdown RFC and GitHub tend to go hand in hand.
All right, there's nobody in the queue, so thank you, Jean.
Thank you.
Yang folks. No disrespect intended.
Okay, I know we're a little behind, so I'll try to motor through here. So Joe and I are speaking on behalf of a number of Yang folks who've been working within NetMod on Yang versioning evolution.
Oh, wait. Hold on. Now try it.
Okay, so first of all, what is coming? So we've been looking at a number of changes to Yang module update rules and how changes are documented in Yang modules. So one of the really big changes is that non-backwards compatible changes, we're actually going to acknowledge that they do occur and they're going to be allowed. Up to now, they have been not allowed, although many of us have just been doing it anyways against our own rules. Still encouraged to be minimized, but we have to unlock that door to allow them to happen. Another major change is that changing the status of a Yang node to obsolete is now going to be considered non-backwards compatible, as is the reality for a client using the modules. And we have added a number of new extension statements to Yang that will be in use in the IETF and the vendor community. So we want to be able to indicate a new Yang revision of a module that contains non-backwards compatible changes. So they're actually visible. We're going to be adding a Semver-like version to modules, so 3.2.0. And there's a bit of new guidance on how to select revisions for imports when one Yang module depends on another. There's also a new file name format, which is going to use, instead of the date revision, it uses this new Semver revision. So you have IETF interfaces, hash, 3.2.0. There's examples in the slides at the end, but we're just not going to have time to go into those today. I'll skip past this so you can take a look at it after, but these are the references of 3 main drafts. So why are we doing this? I mentioned this a little bit before. These are already happening, including in the IETF, definitely in vendor modules. It's just a requirement by a lot of our customers that just needs to happen. But it's kind of been happening quietly and we don't really highlight it, just kind of happens silently. And a user of the module can't really tell that they've been impacted and may need to look into what the changes were. NBC changes are just sometimes necessary and the current rules make it impossible, so we've changed that. The industry has also been moving forward already with a number of these types of things we're introducing here. Particularly, you'll see it in open config modules, but some vendors are doing it as well. And there's also been some initiatives within the IETF, these are ongoing, to try to make Yang authoring more rapid for us to be able to iterate, et cetera. And, part of this is help unblock that so that we don't end up with, perfect being the enemy of good, right? Okay, so what does that mean to all you chairs and to anybody authoring a Yang module? Okay, it's not a huge number of new things, but it's some things you will need to be aware of. Continue to minimize those NBC changes. They are impactful to the users of those modules, but if you need to allow them, and there's a good reason to do them, they are allowed. When you do them though, mark them. So if you publish a revision of a module that has a non-backwards compatible change relative to the previous version, then we're going to mark that right up in the revision statement with a new tag, the rev non-backwards compatible tag. That's just a top level indicator. Hey, something here has changed. There'll be some tooling. We'll talk about that briefly. Go look at what's changed and make sure that it doesn't impact you or adjust your integration if it does. We're going to be adding a Yang Semver to every version of every IETF module going forward. And there's also, when you're doing an import and you actually depend on a certain version of a module, a good example is the basic Yang types. So there's a BIS version of 6991 coming out with some new types that some of your modules probably depend on. So you'll kind of need, you'll want to indicate that in your module. Hey, make sure you pick up at least version 2.3. Okay, a couple of quick examples of where you might see changes. So bug fixes is really a really big category of them. So you got the range wrong, you publish the module, it's just wrong, it doesn't conform to your protocol, a length of a value or a pattern. Spelling mistakes you want to fix. That's again a balance of whether you want to impact the community versus how much you want to clean up your modules. So those aren't always obvious as to whether you want to actually impact your clients. Yep, sometimes it's just evolution and functionality where it would be incredibly painful not to make the breaking change. And the overall impact of the community for the life of the module is going to be lower if you just go and fix something to make it better. Right? So there's a couple examples where the IETF has considered or actually used NBC changes. So RFC 691, there's a lot of debate about an IP addressing change. The L3 VPN model totally changed. IANA told us in a meeting yesterday that it's not very often, but even occasionally in IANA registries, there's an NBC change. We want to be able to mark that. Okay, I'm going to pass this to Joe to talk about tooling.
Thanks, Jason. In the spirit of talking about tooling before you have to use it, the plan here is to take the plan here is to take these three internet drafts and hold them around the auth 48 phase as soon as they get an RFC number, waiting until the tooling gets done and Robert's data tracker team gets updated. Additionally, we were speaking with IANA. We're going to update some of the tools they use. So what are the tools that we've been focused on? Zim, or extract Yang module, I think is what it's short for, PyYang, RFC strip, and libyang. The good news is I got some caffeine one day, and I did most of this work. There's still work to be done. There's still some pending work in PyYang to validate some of what Jason talked about in terms of obsolete. In terms of making IANA's job a little bit easier. I'll talk more about that at NetMod on Friday. But the good news is the rest of this is done, and you can see some examples of what the output will be. The even better news is the plan is to have these incorporated into data trackers such that the Yang linting that you already see happening there is still going to happen based on these new rules, and you'll be able to see whether or not your modules are conformant. One thing that is still work in progress is an overall schema comparison. There's a draft for that. If you're interested, come by NetMod. That will allow, it'll make authoring a little bit easier to find the right semantic version, the correct new SEMVer. We're also going to be talking to Yang doctors so they know what advice to give. I think that's pretty much it on tooling.
In the interest of time, we'll wrap there, but there's a few more reference slides people can look at with examples of what some of these new extensions look like. Any questions?
All right, there's about 1 minute for questions if anybody has any. No, okay. Last agenda
Turn
item.
that off easy.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Just a reminder, RFC 2418, which describes the working group procedures, is being revised. Dave Skenazy has foolishly stepped up to do it because I lost interest. Bit of an exaggeration. So it's in the ProCon mailing list. We had a good meeting yesterday, discussion, trying to come up with some guiding principles about what's documented as policy, where we can defer for practices and so on. So I encourage everyone to read it. And if you find mistakes in the documents, please post on the list, send mail to David and I, or post a GitHub issue. Thank you.
All right, so we have about 1.5 minutes for any other business. I don't see anybody running to the queue, so thank you all very much. Please clean up after yourselves and off to your next meeting.